Detroit.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna call this. Order, since we have quorum. First thing we gotta do is approve, I believe, September minutes,
Correct.
correct? Do I have a motion?
Motion. Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
And a second? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Awesome.
All right. All right. We'll hop over the, you can sit wherever. I assigned seating for the soft talkers, so, you may wish to sit here.
I want to sit there.
I am very direct, sit there. Asia has, the financial presentation, but also, some other information that she wanted to present, so I thought that I would sort of give the overview first, and then move on to the different financial topics. There is an audit draft. The timing was such that the audit committee, there was no way for you to meet, before this meeting. What I wondered was, whether the audit committee would rather have the auditors present to the audit committee, and then you can say in our next meeting, we're all good with it, or whether you just wanted to have a chance to look it over, say, okay, this seems fine, and then at the next official board meeting, we could ask the auditors to do their actual presentation. And the audit committee could say, yes, we're aware of all of this, we recommend approval of the audit. That may not have made a lot of sense, but we have a couple of options. This being our first year, I think the audit will be kind of boring, other than the fact that none of us have sat through an audit presentation before. Next year will be much more interesting because we will have had a whole lot of activities happening.
They're usually not.
Okay, well, no, not fun.
Yeah, no, that's terrifying. Okay.
Well, no, there's no findings. Yeah. So essentially what they did is they reviewed all of our stuff and said, here's what came in, here's what went out. Everything is,
Yeah, I don't mean.
fine.
Bad, it's just a report.
Yeah.
yeah. So I will corner the audit committee after this and we can decide, and then we can decide whether, again, we want to have the small audit group meet at some point in November, or if you would rather perhaps come a half an hour before our December board meeting, so that you have to sit with me longer, but it's only one time. Agency updates. Community Place of Greater Rochester is our only still open ARPA funded program. They are close to being done. And they have assisted 94 households right now, which is wonderful. Baden Street, I'm still trying to decipher their different ways of reporting things, but they have closed out. They have helped somewhere between 100 and 150 households. I'm not positive that I'm not double counting people. So a different update will follow, but very exciting. And Habitat and Legal Aid are already closed out. Rochester Resettlement have enrolled their full 10 households. They are doing regular touch base meetings with their families to, make sure to kind of head things off at the pass if there are issues. I don't have any new updates on Esther Project. They're just moving along. I sort of expect one in the next few weeks. House of Mercy, I think, is having a little trouble recruiting households or housing providers. So they've been kind of making the rounds with different entities to see how they can do a better job recruiting entities. The I guess I will call it the application for services or to be a service that we fund has been out. I have not had any submissions yet. But so continue to talk it up. We do have one different opportunity to talk about, as to be a potential funder. I will let Joey talk about that after. I'm now gonna kind of turn it over to Asia for the, financial overview and then information that she has been gathering. Asia, it is all you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. All right. I'll share my for the financial information. If I remember how to do this.
Oh, now we lost you. Still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me still? No?
Try again.
Is that better?
See, well, we can try and mute us and you can try again.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how to share screen on Zoom. You can't hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, okay. Do you guys know how to share a screen on Zoom?
Sure, if you go to the bottom, there's a little green arrow that says share. Click on that, and then when I'm going to do it while I talk to you, so that way I can, I've only know this because I've made this mistake so many times myself. Um, it'll come up with all your windows that you have open on your computer, which for me is way too many. And then you just have to click on the actual window that you want to share. So do you have a PowerPoint? Oh, there you go. Never mind. I'll stop talking. Thanks.
No, I was listening while you was doing. Okay. All right. So this is the summary for the financial report. So it looks like right now, total remaining, we have 17,365. That was for our Esther project. Esther project had 30,000. They had a June draw of $5,050.75, and then another September draw of $7,584. I think I can show Carol. And then for House of Mercy, they had a total of $30,000 with the August draw of $878.17. And then they have a total left of $29,121.83. And then over here, we have the 3,000 for, I don't know, what's their acronym?
Rochester Refugee Resettlement.
Okay, I was gonna butcher that, so thank you, Leah. So they have, their total was the same as Esther Project and House of Mercy. Their August draw, we talked about that, was $8,250. And then their October draw, which was good, is $8,405.87. So they have a total of $13,344.13. And we did have an administrative draw in September for $60. So total, we have $104,000 and $778 left.
Great.
We're doing good.
Any thoughts or questions?
No.
All right. So then you had your other info that you wanted to move right into, right?
Yes, I'm pulling it up. I have it up. I just gotta find out the screen. Okay, so you go. Can you guys see the screen?
Okay.
All right, so this was a survey that I created. I don't know when I did it. It was a couple months. It was right after our last meeting, and we talked about like trying to figure out how to figure out what the neighborhoods need. So this was the survey that I sent out to my Facebook, and I had other people share it. So this is what it looks like. It's 19 questions, but it's most of them are like multiple choice questions. It talks about it being anonymous and voluntary. So it acts as like demographic questions, zip codes, how many people live in your household. So this is like the survey that the people that took the survey that they see, and age ranges, education levels, employment status, household income, their current living situation, which is the information that will be helpful for us, how long they've lived at their residences, how many times they've moved in the past 12 months. So we can see like, are people moving? Are they stable? Are they getting evicted? Like basically to see what their status is. And then some housing stability changes. This was a lot of the results for this are very interesting. Like how concerned were they about their ability to pay rent or mortgage? Did they have to cut back on certain things to cover their housing costs? And then in the past year, have they received an eviction or a foreclosure? And I think these questions I felt like was essential to figure out what are there some things that we can do that the city doesn't have, or that there aren't any programs of that we could possibly fund or do something like that if we see any type of proposals. So they did select the challenges. So it's a bunch of challenges like landlord disputes, overcrowding, threat of eviction, housing costs, poor housing conditions, unreliable utilities, lack of public transportation for work. And then this question, I just asked them like the single biggest barrier to finding or maintaining stable housing. And have they ever sought any type of assistance, since we're providing funding to people who provide these assistance? I thought that was a really good question. And if they did seek any type of assistance, like what type of assistance did they try to use? And then what type of housing support do they think that we need most to improve housing stability? And there's a bunch of different stuff, like some of the programs we started, like legal aid and easier access to home ownership programs, short shelter option, job training, mental health, just a bunch of different stuff. And then is there anything, just a kind of like a short answer, is there anything else you would like to share about your housing situation or needs for Rochester community? So I'll go through like a presentation, unless anybody had any questions for those what I just showed you guys. Okay, no. So I got 57 responses. Average time to take the survey was 5 minutes and 15 seconds, and it went over a number of 15 days. And then here's a presentation. So the first question, oh, it's still loading. First question was, what is your zip code? And after looking at the zip codes, it looks like there were a bunch of zip codes. Some of them I have never seen before, like 14445 and then 14414. But majority of the zip codes came from 09, 08, 11, 21, and surprisingly 26. Those were like the top 5 zip codes that had the most responses. With 09, they had the most responses after I tallied it up. And then how many people currently live in your household? So 57% said 3 to 4 people. And that the question included like kids under 18. So the next question is, please select the age ranges for the household. And this, you can see that people, surprisingly, 25 to 44, 42% of the people responded. Under 18 is 27%, 18 to 24 is 14%, and then only 45 to 64, 13, and 65 and older is 22%. The other question is the highest level of education. So the highest level was 49% with some college and associate's degree. High school diploma or GED was 28%, bachelor's was 8%, and then graduate professional degree was 12%, with less than high school diploma, which is 1%, which I thought was impressive. And then your current employment status, 70% of the people who respond to the survey are employed full-time, but this is only like 57 responses. And then employed is 17%, unemployed and looking is 3%, and then 0% for the unemployed, not looking for work, retired, or student. And then total household income range, the highest range was 50 to 74, well, basically 75,000 at 40%, and the lowest was 10%, less than 25. And then 25 to 49 is 22%. And then 75 to 99 is 10, and then only 15% made 100,000 or more. Then the question asks, which of the following best describes your current living situation? Only 1% paid off their home. Well, 1% of that survey response paid off their home. 19% said they own a home with mortgage, and 52% rent from a private landlord. 10% have public or subsidized housing, and 8% are temporary living with friends and family. 1% staying in a shelter, and 0 are not living in shelter. And 5% is other, but it wasn't specific on what the other was because they didn't make a comment to put what they were doing with that. And I think it's really important to see that over 50% of the people rent from a private landlord. And then a lot of people have lived at their home. 42%, 1 to 5 years. Less than 6 months is 12%. 6 months to a year is 12%. And then more than 5 years is 33%. How many times have you moved in the past month? 68% said 0 once. 21%, 8% two responses. To more than 2 years, more than 2, 3%, 3 or more is 1%. How concerned are you about your ability to pay your rent or mortgage next month? And 28% said very concerned, which I thought that was really concerning, that people feel like they're not able to pay their rent or mortgage, knowing that over 50% of people actually rent. So that's actually concerning, and that causes the issue with housing stability. 24% said they were somewhat concerned. 24% said neither concerned or unconcerned, and a small percentage said somewhat unconcerned, and a lot of people said very unconcerned. They were probably the more stable people. And in the past 12 months, have you had to cut back on essentials, food, medicine, utilities to cover your housing costs? And an overwhelming amount of 45% said yes, often, which is kind of scary. And then 31% said yes sometimes, and 22% said no. In the past year, have you received an eviction or foreclosure notice? This is good. It made me feel good, even though it's only 57 responses. 17% said yes, and 82% said no. But they may be on the verge of eviction because it was 42% people said that they're concerned. Please select any of the following challenges you face with your current housing, and 26% said high cost of rent or mortgage. Poor housing condition, mold, pest, structural issues was 18%. Unreliable resources was 9%. 4% said landlord disputes, overcrowding 4%, as well as lack of access to public transportation was 4%. And 14% concerned about neighborhood safety, and then 9% is threat of eviction. And none of the above was another 9%. What do you believe is the single biggest cost barrier to finding or maintaining stability? There was a lot of responses. I won't go over all of them, but most of them actually said like cost. So like this one was cost. The cost of purchase a home and interest rates are high and market pushes to overpay. And then the cost of rent is astronomical to the small amount of space. So some apartment complex, they complain, a lot of people complain of like slumlord, and then you see price. And then someone said the biggest barrier to finding and maintaining housing in Rochester are finances. And then it says everyone is below the poverty level, pay minimum wage, and they're not able to save due to the economy. So overall, a lot of it was income. It was some credit score, most cost, prices. Like throughout this, people were saying the rent was high, condition of neighborhood housing relative to the cost. So majority of the responses, it was basically a lot of rent, cost, high, basically price. Income was a lot of responses as well. And this one asks, have you ever sought assistance from any housing support services in the past? 75% said no. 7% said I was unaware, and 17% said yes. If you have sought assistance, which of the following services have you used? 25% said rent or utility assistance programs. 3% said emergency shelter. Only 9% said first-time home buyers programs. 3% said foreclosure prevention counseling, and 4% said legal aid for landlord tenant issues. 11% said housing search assistance, and then the other was 42%, but they didn't make a comment of what the other was. What types of housing support do you think the Rochester community needs most to improve housing stability? And this one was a little bit balanced. There was really not something that was too high or too low, except for legal aid. It was more affordable housing units at 17%, financial assistance and for rent and utilities at 13%, and programs to help with home repairs at 11%. And then easier access to home ownership programs was 12%. And then these are on the lower end were expanded legal services for tenants and homeowners, more emergency shelter options at 5%, job training and employment services, mental health and substance abuse, and then clear information on available services at 7%. And then this question asks, is there anything else you would like to share about the housing support? This was the short answer. And a lot of people some people said no, some people said they had issues with first home buyer stuff, and they were struggling to have more affordable rent, more help for older people. People complained about gentrification. They said there are a lot of abandoned buildings that could be cheaper for people. So a lot of it was like housing, better prices, rent. Some people made comments like it sucks. So it was a lot of responses, and then it was a lot of responses that said no, and people didn't have comments at all. And then that was it. Any questions or feedback? I just wanted to see like if there's anything from even though it's only 57 responses, if there was anything that we could do or anything we could do to shape the way we fund or get people involved with funding, or is there any programs that may need the funding that the community feels like needs it more than other programs?
Asia, this is from the City Master. Do you think you could share those survey responses with the group?
Yes, I can send a link.
Okay, that'd be great.
Oh, that was the end of it, guys.
Right.
Anybody had any questions?
Sounds like it was a good mix of renters and homeowners. Asia, were you looking for resources? Was that your question at the end?
You mean the question that said, is there anything else you would like to share about your housing situation or the needs
No,
of the?
I was asking, were you after the results of the study, were you looking for resources that you could point people to?
No, I was just trying to figure out, no. I was trying to figure out, because we talked about different things that we could do or anything that we should be looking for specifically I wanted to hear from the Rochester community themselves, what we feel like, what they feel like they need. Because when I talk to other people, other people say different things. So I just wanted to kind of get a roundabout answer of what hearing from them, because I haven't seen any personal surveys of what the Rochester community said they needed. And then the community of people that are my friends on Facebook that shared it with a bunch of other people, just seeing what was some of the responses. That's it.
No, it was an excellent, I think you got excellent feedback. I think it was excellent.
Thank you.
It's fun because it's very similar to the survey that we put out when we were developing the idea of a housing trust fund to begin with. A lot of the questions are very similar, a lot of the answers are very similar. And that was 2020, 2021 that we did that, so that's similar circumstances, I'd say. Okay. Last but not least, Joey's boss sent him an opportunity for the RHSF to consider, and I believe we're going to be having a meeting with the service provider agency that had suggested it, so we don't know a whole lot of details, but I thought he could maybe give a very quick overview, and then I could jot down questions that we have, so that when we have our meeting with the service provider, we can ask those and then have actual feedback for the group when we get back together.
Yeah, this is through, Flippa, which I don't know if anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
First time, I'm here, so this presentation will help for me, to gather more information as well, but, so it's through Flippa, and it's for, folks who are eligible for Medicaid services, so, what Corporation Council had said to me was, there are certain 501c3s that are having a hard time getting involved in this program, getting their ducks in a row. So, what services this group could provide would be essentially, taking the funds, through Flippa and offering loans to these, other not-for-profits and other organizations that can then use the funds. So that's sort of what we're thinking of it, like, at least to start. It would essentially be a pass-through, right? They could give is what the idea is. Again, this is at the very early stage. We really don't have a ton of information. And I think it will be helpful to go to the service provider and ask any questions. Now, these are all housing related issues as well, right? It's not like they're just some random where I think is a pass-through for a different service. These are all housing related issues that folks are dealing with. Whether it's rental assistance, whether it's moving charges or other things that we sort of all discussed here. And it would be different services that these organizations would like to assist with, but currently can't because of the process that's currently in place. So we're going to be sort of meeting with them, talking about the process and funding and what we can do to help guide these non-profits to this.
What are the funds for the nonprofits to be used for? Specific, or is it?
Yeah, for rental or for housing assistance. I mean, that's specific for what it is. I have no information. That's a great question. Glad that.
Are you speaking about like the social care network? Is that the funding that you're talking about?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
I don't know.
Sarah.
I heard you say loan.
So I think the thought was that we would give the provider a loan,
Because we need to have some sort of agreement.
some agreement, and then they would use our money to given out to
You would
folks,
take the
and then when they get their reimbursement, the money is repaid.
Reimbursement from Medicaid.
Yeah,
Okay. So
Bridge loan, that's for-
Flippa doesn't have the money. They were saying get the money from the state, but they're not
Right.
qualified currently to get the money from the state.
yes, so yes, I think what Tim suggested, it's a kind of a bridge loan, so it's just a
Yeah.
recurring bridge loan for an entity or multiple, we don't know that. And potentially we could charge, 2% interest, or, some way to sort of put a little more money into our coffers without charging an arm and a leg, because that's not the purpose.
Yeah, some of the, so I found it, so some of the services that that they would qualify would be pretty much all the things that we would assume. Home accessibility and safety modifications, home remediation services, asthma remediation, medical respite, rent, temporary housing. Utility setup and assistance, housing navigation, pre-tenancy services, community transitional services, tenancy sustaining services, housing transition services, and navigation of housing support services, so kind of most everything. Not a whole lot of like home buyer necessarily, but if it's navigating them to a specific service provider to increase sustainability. Yeah, it's pretty broad, which is great.
And I think that the 2% interest is just an idea too. It's
Yeah,
not
we don't have to,
necessarily like- Yeah, it's still talk internally, exactly what we want to present, I guess, what's acceptable to present also to the board. For you guys to also decide on both. What that idea would look like. Yeah.
2% or just some sort of like
Any
administrative.
added fees and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think really this was kind of a temperature check and, particular questions that we could ask. And so then theoretically, we will have this meeting before our December meeting, so we will have more information to give you.
Yeah, we should soon try to coordinate schedules for the service provider on that, so, we keep the board posted.
I guess the question for that meeting would be, do they have any sort of like written documentation as to what would be approvable or reimbursable for housing support?
Mhm.
So that we could refer to if we were to do that. Love to know what total scope of like funds available, be another good one.
Right. All right. Is there anything else that should be touched on?
Just going back to Asia and all her work, what will become of it?
Well, I didn't know it was happening, so I do not know. My assumption is that we, the group, will take this information and use it to, again, make determinations on what we want to fund and why.
That's the goal.
They just said that's the whole.
Leah, can I share a little bit about an event that we're hosting? Or
Sure,
do you want us to wait until after the interview?
feel free.
Okay, all right, so I have a lot of flyers, so I've always got materials to start with. So the city is having its second annual Generational Wealth Summit. It's gonna be happening on Saturday, November 15th. We're really excited about it. A lot of the folks in this room are actually part of it, yeah, so, and we're really just trying to get the word out. It's gonna be Saturday, November 15th, at UPrep on Lake Avenue. And it's gonna include workshops on purchasing your first home, preventing scams, saving for your child's future, as well as the city assessor's office is going to actually have folks on site, so you can sign up for property tax exemptions, which we're excited about. You can also open a safe and affordable bank account at the event. And because of Nick's graciousness, we're gonna have free memberships to the Seek Tool Library for the first 30 people. And our genie actually just said that we'll get 60 our genie home kits for the event as well. So we're really excited about it. We have a week and a half left until it happens. So far, we have about 100 people signed up. We'd like to double that by the 15th. And so if you would just be willing to get the word out, that'd be really helpful. I can drop off flyers. And then we're also pulling together a social media toolkit for organizations to share. So, yeah, any questions or concerns about this, just let me know. So,
How soon will you share this will be?
hopefully by Wednesday, actually sooner than that, but I'm having an intern
Great.
who's younger than me. I'll figure that out, so, yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
We have. These, any in the housing office.
I was gonna ask if we could drop some off.
Yeah.
Okay,
that-
great.
That would be great.
Okay.
And also in. Set 028B,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah,
Great.
in the home care area.
Oh, no, I've got 1,000 literally in my office. Yeah, that'd be great.
You come anytime between the 11 and 2?
Yes, yes. Yeah, the panel is gonna be from 12 to 1, but the workshops, everything is on the page and the schedule is there as well, but you come.
Is there anything else, Leah? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay.
Thanks.
All right, all in favor?
Bye.
All right.
I think that was.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you. I do, yeah, you guys, I